Hello, everybody. It's your resident Gemini, Maria Riegger, again with another Positive Parenting with Astrology video. Are you an Aries mom or an Aries dad with a Capricorn child? Would you like help getting through to and understanding your Capricorn child? If you're finding it takes a lot of effort, it's because Aries and Capricorn energy are very different from each other. There are some similarities, which we'll talk about, but there are a ton of differences, so it does take extra effort to understand and sympathize with your Capricorn child. Okay, if you don't know me, I'm a mom, an attorney by day, an astrologer, and an author by night, and I incorporate astrology into some of my positive parenting tips and advice that I give you. Talking about Capricorn children is one of my favorite subjects because I have a Capricorn moon myself, and I very much identify with the Capricorn energy in my chart. And I think Capricorn kids can largely be misunderstood. So I'm here to help you, and we're going to talk about the differences between Capricorn and Aries energy, and also how you can better connect with your Capricorn child. We're going to start by giving an overview of Aries energy and of Capricorn energy, talking about how the two signs interact, and then finish, as always, by sharing with you some positive parenting tips to better connect with your Capricorn child. So Aries energy. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is a fire sign, so that means it's a masculine energy, active sign, and it's a cardinal sign, which means that Aries people are always moving forward, intent on progression, intent on achievement. It's very different from fixed energy. Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, and like the other fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius, it is an ego-oriented energy. Aries people like to be right. They like to do what they want to do. It is kind of a me first energy. It's not necessarily a bad thing, okay? One of the best traits about Aries people is that they are very good at self-championing, self-advocating. They're very good at standing up for themselves. One of the things I talk about on this channel a lot is to allow your children to say no to you, allow your children to stand up for themselves. Aries children and Aries parents do not have this problem. They're very good at advocating for themselves. The best trait of the Aries parent is that Aries parents are excellent at going to bat for their kids, at fighting for their kids. They're not afraid to offend people. They're not afraid to step on people's toes. They're not afraid that people don't like them. It doesn't matter to them if people like them or not. They are very good at advocating for their children, and that is by far the best trait that I see. I love that about my Aries parent friends. They have no problem going to bat for their kids, and that I wish I saw more of that in today's world. So that's a fantastic trait to have. So if you're an Aries parent, please keep advocating for your children. Even if it means you're offending other people, that shouldn't matter, because if the parents are not going to bat for their kids, then who's going to look after the best interests of the child if it's not the parent? Okay, Capricorn energy. Capricorn is an earth sign and a cardinal sign. So it's an earth sign. That means it's a feminine energy or more passive sign. It is a cardinal sign like Aries. So Capricorn people have that in common with Aries people. They're very intent on achievement, especially material things. All the earth signs they material things, possessions, money, stability, very important to them. Having a good foundation, very important to them. So it is a cardinal sign like Aries. So the two signs understand that cardinal nature very well, obviously. Being an earth sign, it is a little more grounded, and it appreciates stability way more than Aries does. Aries, like other fire signs, has always runs the risk of burning uncontrollably without direction, but the earth signs value stability, they value a strong foundation, they value security, they like to know what's coming next, things like that. Capricorn is also very calculating. Another big difference between fire and earth energy is that fire sign people, especially Aries, they do things often without thinking about possible repercussions or consequences. I see this all the time. The fire sign person will do an action and be faced with a consequence and will stop and think, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming, or wasn't expecting that to happen. It's because they rarely take the time to stop and think about all the possible ways this could play out, all the possible repercussions, all the possible consequences. An example I like to use is, for example, you're cooking, right? And you throw in like a bunch of salt into this dish. You taste it. You think, oh wow, that's like way too salty. I put way too much salt in there. The what you could do instead is you put a little bit of salt, you taste the dish, you think it's not enough salt, you put a little bit more salt, you taste the dish, and you adjust. But once you've thrown all the salt in there, like if you've thrown like, I don't know, a quarter cup of salt into a dish, it's too late. You can't take the salt out, right? It's really hard to do that. That's a good analogy to fire energy, is they act without thinking. And I've seen that happen a lot. And when you're a parent, you need to be very careful about, if you're always acting without thinking about the consequences to the child, and that there are negative consequences to the child, obviously that runs the risk of harming your long-term relationship. Capricorn people on the opposite end of that spectrum are very calculating. They're always looking at odds. They're always thinking about consequences. What they do, their activities are very directed toward a particular focus and goal. It is a very different energy from Aries. So one thing I see is that Aries is very impulsive, and Capricorn likes stability, and Capricorn kids like to know what's coming next. They do not like last minute changes. They do not handle last minute changes well. They also have more of a problem handling transitions. If you're an Aries parent, you may have to do a little more planning sometimes than you are comfortable with or would like to, for the benefit of the children. Not all the time, but once in a while. Or if plans change and you see that your Capricorn child is upset about it or isn't handling it well, validate emotions. Don't tell them, well, what's the big deal? Or just buck up or suck it up. Things happen. Tell them, look, I'm sorry, these plans are changing last minute. It's not what you expected. It's not what you were looking forward to doing. It was out of my control, and I'll do my best to make sure that these last minute changes don't happen next time. Just by validating the fact that you understand that this is giving the child a little bit of a hard time will really work to improve your relationship with the child. Capricorn people, remember, being an earth sign, they value material resources. They like to save money, right? They like to have stability, and part of the stability is financial and economic stability. Capricorn people like to accumulate money. In general, I'm generalizing. Not every single Capricorn person is necessarily like Scrooge McDuck, although I kind of identify with Scrooge McDuck. But because money to me means stability, and it means freedom. It means that I don't have to be chained to a 9-to-5 desk job. But Aries people tend to be very impulsive. They tend not to think too much in the long term. Capricorn is all about thinking for the long term. Capricorn people are excellent at sacrificing short and midterm gains for longer term rewards. Aries is the opposite. Aries is always living in the moment. I want to spend money now. I want this now. I'm not thinking about 10 years, 5 years, a year, a month, a day ahead of time. Very impulsive energy. So you can already see these two energies are so different that they're hard to reconcile sometimes. So I want to mention one quick thing before we get into some details about how Aries and Capricorn people relate to each other. And this is something that I've pointed out in my books on Gemini and Scorpio children. This is a dynamic that I first read about in Susan Cain's book called Introverts, or The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, which is an excellent book about introvert in general and introvert extrovert relationships. One of the things she points out, which is a dynamic that I see with Aries and Capricorn people, is that so the Aries person is very passionate, and when they're not necessarily having an argument but getting worked up about something, they become very loud and they may yell. And to the Aries person, they are yelling because they are showing how passionate they are about this relationship and about the subject you're talking about. So to them, it's a positive thing. Capricorn people do not relate like that. They feel attacked when they're being yelled at, especially children, Capricorn children. Capricorn can be a harsh sign like Aries, but Capricorn is a very cold harshness, if you will. The Capricorn person, when they're in an argument, in the middle of an argument, they will shut down, give the silent treatment, and withdraw most of the time. If the Capricorn person has a lot of fire in their chart, they may project more like an Aries person. But generally, Capricorn is a colder energy. So in this dynamic with fire and earth, you can run the risk of there being scorched earth, which is why it is so important for the Aries parent to control their emotions here and not yell too much. The Capricorn, what happens is the Capricorn person feels attacked with the yelling. They withdraw further. They become quieter and quieter until they shut down and give the silent treatment. And when the Aries person sees that, the Aries person thinks the Capricorn person doesn't care about the relationship and doesn't care about the subject because they're withdrawing and they're getting quieter. When that's not what's happening. The Capricorn person feels attacked. The Aries person is wondering why the Capricorn person isn't yelling, and they're assuming that because they're not yelling, they don't care and they're not passionate. But what the problem is, fire sign people, especially Aries, they're not great at detaching and seeing from the other person's point of view. It is very hard for a person with a lot of Aries in their chart, especially in the personal planets, to see things from another person's point of view. So if you're an Aries parent, I implore you to once in a while step back, look at the big picture, and look at things from the child's point of view instead of your point of view. This is essential for you to empathize with your child and build a stronger connection with your child. Okay, a few more points about how Capricorn and Aries people interact and relate. Aries, because it's a very ego-oriented sign, they like to be right. So Aries likes to be right, okay? Capricorn likes to be right. But with Aries, we said they have a hard time seeing things from the other person's point of view. It's also a sign that tends to think that they know everything. It is not a sign that will automatically go and seek outside information because they think they know everything. I'm generalizing a bit, but it's a sign that I've run into a lot of Aries people who frankly think that they have nothing to learn, that they know everything. I'm not saying all Aries parents are like that, but it is a risk with this energy. Okay. Capricorn people, Capricorn children, they tend to be very mature and wise beyond their years. Okay. Capricorn people also like to be right. So if you're an Aries parent, think about what you can learn from your child. Just because children are younger, smaller, have less life experience than adults, does not mean that children cannot teach parents anything. It does not mean that parents cannot learn from children. Please be open to learning from your Capricorn child. Chances are you will learn a lot from them because Capricorn kids are very observant about the world. They tend to be very mature for their age. They are very comfortable with taking on responsibility. Okay. That brings us to another point, is that Capricorn kids, it's not uncommon for them to almost act like parents to the parent because they are so mature for their age and they are so comfortable taking on responsibility. They may even be a little bossy with the parents. And Aries people like to be bossy too. So this gives the potential for a lot of head-to-head conflict. So remember that, and always, always, always remain calm with your Capricorn child. And if they're starting to be bossy with you, tell them, hey, we discussed this, or hey, I'm making the decision on this. I understand maybe you would like something different. Maybe next time we'll do it your way, but here's what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it like this. Please watch your volume level. Please don't yell. That's because, again, if you start with the yelling, then we have the potential for the scorched earth and that dynamic, and that just harms the relationship in the long term. Okay. We mentioned this earlier. Aries people, like other fire signs, tend to act first without thinking about consequences. Please take a step back. Think about possible consequences with your child. If you're, at the boiling point and you're just having a bad day and your kids are just wearing on your nerves, which happens to all of us, go to another room, tell them, hey, I need a quick break by myself. Just I will be with you in a few minutes. Go outside, go to another room, calm down before you go back and interact with your kids. We talked about the fact that Capricorn kids are very mature for their age and tend to be a little bit bossy. If they are pestering you, you can tell them calmly, always remain calm. Hey, we already talked about this. You can also use a technique that I learned, which is if they keep asking you the same question that you've answered, just tell them, asked and answered. That question's been asked and answered already. It's been asked and answered, and then you can remove yourself from the room to keep your cool, okay? One interesting thing that I thought about recently about fire sign people is that if you think about it, the four elements in the zodiac, fire, water, earth, and air, fire is the only element that cannot exist by itself, right? Fire needs air to survive. So fire sign people tend to have an entourage about them. they don't do well by themselves all the time. Even fire sign people who test as introverts tend to have a lot of friends and hang out with a lot of friends. Remember, being an introvert does not mean you don't like people, and it does not mean you don't like to socialize. I love to socialize. I love to go out. I'm a big introvert. Being an introvert means that you need alone time to recharge your energy. The social interaction depletes your energy. If you're an extrovert, the social interaction gives you more energy. But if fire sign people, whether they're introverts or extroverts, tend to come with a big entourage. They tend to be around a lot of people. Capricorn is more of a solitary loner sign. Again, not saying they don't like to hang around people, but they tend to be very comfortable by themselves. So if you're an Aries parent, please don't expect your kid to be entertaining you or want to hang out with you all the time. I've seen that dynamic play out. I had a fire sign parent, not an Aries parent. I had a Leo parent who would be offended when I did not want to hang out with them, when I wanted to be alone in my room reading. I was in school all day. I was with people all day long. When I came home, I wanted to be alone, and my parent was offended that I didn't want to spend time with them. So be mindful of the fact that your Capricorn child probably needs some alone time, and try not to take it personally when they don't want to hang out with you. It's not you they don't want to hang out with. It's the fact that they just need to be alone for a bit, okay? All right, we said to be open. If you're an Aries parent, please be open about learning from your Capricorn child. Aries can teach Cap about living in the moment, because we said that Capricorn people like to plan, ruminate about the future. They're not as great as living in the moment as Aries people are. So if you're the Aries parent, you can teach your child to appreciate the moment, right? While respecting their intrinsic trait that they like to plan ahead. You can compliment them on that trait. You can tell them, it's great that you're thinking about the future. It's great that you'd like to save money. What do you plan to do with the money you're saving? It's exciting to think about what you can do with everything you're saving or with all the plans you're making. And Capricorn can teach Aries about the benefit of long-term planning. That if you, for example, spend all your money today, in a year or 2 years or 10 years, you won't have as much to enjoy life, continue to enjoy life. So while those particular characteristics about those signs are not totally compatible, you can meet in the middle and teach each other about the value of being, being like the other without negating the other's intrinsic trait, if that makes sense. Appreciate the trait about the person and also show them the benefit of maybe expanding their horizons. And I say this all the time to parents. The best way to kind of get a child to experience new things is not to tell the child, well, you should just do this, just do this. It's not to give the child orders. It's the parents to go out and do the activity. And when the child sees the parent doing the activity and having fun, the child will think, oh, well, this looks like fun. I'm going to try this too. Lead by example, right? When we talk about the word discipline, that comes from the term disciple, meaning to lead, to guide, to show children. It's not about punishing children or just meting out consequences all the time. It's about leading by example and guiding children. Okay, we're going to conclude by going over some positive parenting tips for you Aries parents. We've touched on most of these already. Aries parents may need to plan a little bit more ahead of time for Capricorn kids, or if you can't, just acknowledge that it's difficult. You understand that your Capricorn child has some difficulty with transitions or making last minute changes, that it won't always be like that you're sorry, but we'll deal with this, and hopefully next time we'll be able to plan ahead a little bit more. Praise your Capricorn child's good qualities. I see a lot of the time the parent being very different from the child, and the parent criticizing the child's intrinsic traits, and that does nothing but make the child feel bad about themselves. Praise your Capricorn child's good qualities. Again, we said, that's great that you like to save money. That's great that you love to read. That's great that, I don't know, that you love to help at home. I'm so happy that you like to help at home, right? Aries people can be a little bit on the controlling side because they like things how they like them and they like to be right, okay? When you're doing things with your children, it's not about perfectionism or doing things perfectly, or if you're cooking, making sure the dish that you're making comes out perfectly. It's about doing things together, doing activities that bond you, just occupying the same space, just hanging out together, doing fun things together. And if you're always criticizing your child is going to end up not talking to you, or talking to you way less, because they don't want to hear criticism. No one wants to hear criticism all the time. So always remember to praise your Capricorn child's good qualities. I cannot say this enough. Be patient. Think before you act. think before you speak. Aries energy is very impulsive. Aries people assert themselves on the stage of life. That is great. It's a great quality to have, but it also makes Aries people not think about potential consequences. Think before you speak to your kids. Think before you act. Take a breath. Go to another room. Count to 10, whatever you have to do. Okay. Praise your Capricorn child's helpfulness. Remember, we said they love to help at home. They're very comfortable taking on responsibility. Instead of thinking, wow, they're bossy, or they think I don't do this right because they want to do it. No, think about, reframe that thought a little bit, and think about the fact that they like to help at home. They like to be useful. Capricorn likes to be useful. They like to help. They are very dependable. They are also very independent. So I see a lot of Aries moms want to do everything for the children. With Capricorn kids, that does not go over well because they like to be in charge of themselves. They like to be independent. They like to do things for themselves. I'm going to give you a short story about that as an example. Another astrologer I know had a client who has a Capricorn daughter, and the daughter would walk home from school every day. And there was another kid in the neighborhood that ended up going to the same school, or moved into the neighborhood recently. So the mom said, oh, well, you can walk with my daughter to school every day, because the other child was older, and thought, well, you can chaperone my daughter going to school. Well, the Capricorn girl hated that. She didn't want to be chaperoned. She wanted to be in charge of herself. She wanted to walk by herself. She wanted to do it herself. That is a very good illustration of Capricorn energy. They like to be independent. So by all means, give your child as much age-appropriate independence as possible. Aries parents tend to be a little bit like helicopter parents. Not all of them. I don't want to paint too broad a brush, but I've seen it enough to definitely think that it's worth mentioning. So with Capricorn children, they do not do well when they're helicoptered over. They do very well when you back off a little bit as they get older and you let them be in charge of their schoolwork and other things. Okay. Do not pressure your Capricorn child to do things they are not ready to do or not comfortable with. Fire energy is very, like we said, very impulsive. It can come across very strongly and harshly to earth sign kids, okay? So make sure you're not pressuring your Capricorn child to do things they are not ready to do. Again, I'll say it again. The best way to get your kids to do something is for them to see you doing it and having fun, or for them to see their peers doing it and having fun. I have several examples of that with my son, who is not a Capricorn, he's a Scorpio, but that dynamic can play out with Scorp because they're very cautious. For example, when he was little, didn't want to go to the beach, didn't want to do X, didn't want to do Y. When he saw the adults and the kids go to the beach splashing around having fun, he thought, oh, that looks like fun. It doesn't look as dangerous as I thought. I'm going to go join them. That's the best way to encourage your children to try a new activity. And the last tip I have for you, I say this a lot, this is especially relevant for this dynamic with the Aries parent and the Capricorn child. Apologize. You will mess up. All parents do. We're not perfect. I always say it. We're not robots. We're human. We're not perfect. We mess up. Apologize. I've known enough Aries people to see that they generally tend to be reluctant to apologize because it's a very self-directed, ego-oriented energy. They like to be right. They do not like admitting they're wrong. It will go a long way toward building a strong relationship with your child if you can apologize when you mess up. That goes a long way. It does not lessen your authority as a parent. It builds trust with the child. It builds loyalty because you are basically communicating to the child that you know you messed up, that you are being vulnerable, and the child will appreciate that, will appreciate the apology. It does not lessen a parent's or an adult's authority to apologize to a child. Okay, it goes a long way towards strengthening the bond you guys have. Then you can talk about it and try to do better next time. Okay? That's it for today. If you're interested in my books on Scorpio and Gemini children, the links are in the comments. And if you haven't seen them already, I have a video on how to parent Capricorn children and how to parent Capricorn moon children on my Capricorn children playlist. So you're welcome to check out those videos. And if you want to email me about anything, please hit the email address in the video description. And please leave me a comment about how you are parenting your Capricorn children if you have any questions, and what is the best trait you have found about your Capricorn child. All right. See you next time.